Thank you. Are you sending for the witness?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. While the witness is being brought, we'll allow for other commissioners to come in and take their place. Now we have a quorum.
Don't worry. I thought we had a quorum already.
we
had a 7 quorum already.
Yes,
4
Mr.
on my left,
yes,
my
you're
right,
right.
And the 3 on
you
the
are
right.
right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Sose, for deputizing in my absence this morning. I had an errand to run, that's why I couldn't come around. If the witness is here, Counsel, if you're ready, shall we proceed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, Mr. Kante. I hope you had the opportunity to relax a little bit during that break.
Yes, very well. Thank you very much.
Yes. May I remind you that you are still under oath?
Yeah, noted.
Before the break, you told us that you left police headquarters in Banjul and then you went to State House. Is that right?
That's right.
Could you kindly tell us what happened at the State House when you arrived there?
Yeah, when I arrived, State House was relatively quiet. I met Yaya Jammeh there with his usual enigmatic bravado behavior, just out. But on shore, at that point, Edward Singate also had arrived because I passed through the police station, the police headquarters. So I saw both of them there.
You said you saw Jammeh exuding bravado. How was he dressed?
His top was out and open, bare-chested, and I guess he was not composed. Unlike Singate, he wasn't composed at all. I think he had a sense of insecurity somehow. Singate could communicate better with me, or I observed, that was my observation. He was like, Yaya Jammeh was like, something could happen to him anytime. But Singate was quite composed.
What else happened after that?
At that point, he told me, like Singate has already briefed you, this is a coup that has already taken place, it's successful, and our aim is to, as he's told you, is to take the country in a transition and return it to civilian rule in a matter of months, he said. But he also told me that your wishes will be taken into account, that there will be no execution.
Did he say anything else to you?
Well, I don't remember immediately what else he said to me, but I remember him telling me that you are invited and you could go home, change dress, and join us. A vehicle was allocated to me, plus escorts, and thereafter I left to go home with a group of soldiers with a vehicle, an open truck, with other soldiers. At first, I felt a little under siege. I felt like a captive, sort of. Um, it was like my opinion was not sought whether I was going to go home and remain there and not be part of it. That was not what that idea was. But I knew also the dangers of outright saying, no, I'm not going to be part of this whole venture. But of course, it's something that I wanted to see happen, and it has happened. It had happened. So I thought the best thing to do was to be part of it, play my role, and make sure I become the usual voice of moderation and common sense. And this is the role I continue to play throughout my contribution.
At this stage, did you come to know who was in charge?
It appeared to me that they both started owing allegiance to Yahya Jammeh. It appeared to me, because Singate appeared to be at the fringe. All the time that I was talking to Yahya Jammeh, he was not intervening. He was saluting and saying, yes, sir. Then I knew something was going on here. Yahya Jammeh was in charge, or about to be in charge.
At this stage, Sabali was still at the police station, correct?
Correct. I think he was still at the police station because I didn't meet him at the State House.
Do you recall what time you left State House?
Again, no sense of time. I don't know. Must be about after 2 o'clock or something, but I can't be sure.
And from State House, you went where?
I went home with a group of soldiers who escorted me in a truck. Truck means L200 open thing. You know, it was more than 8 soldiers who escorted me home to get ready, put on my gears, put on my stuff, and I relaxed. I had time to relax. I told them I wasn't going for 2 hours. I was going to rest because I just came from my village. So they waited for me. Thereafter, we came together to the State House.
How were you dressed when you left your home for State House?
I was combat ready.
Can you indicate what that means, being combat ready?
I was in combat equipment fighting order. That means I put on fatigue, green fatigue, camouflage, webbings, water bottles, anything that would keep me alive in case I was cut off from all sources of essential services, water, food, and anything. So I packed as much as I could in the heat of the event.
Do you recall when you arrived at State House? What time?
Could have been 5 o'clock.
Can you kindly tell us what happened when you arrived at State House?
I arrived at the State House and Jammeh wasn't available, but Spingat spoke to me, and then I had an assignment to do.
What was this assignment?
I was told that I had to put all the barracks in order. I had to go around to see what was happening everywhere, the checkpoints, the barracks, and so on. So that was my duty there and then.
Did you perform that duty?
Yes, I did perform that duty.
What did you do the rest of that evening?
I spent the best part of that evening at Yundum Barracks, where some officers were already stationed, waiting for further instructions. They were unsure what was going on. I just informed some of them what was happening, that the country had changed. A coup had taken place. I was from the State House, and I was told to come and see you guys to find out what was going on. So I was hopping from camp to camp, from checkpoint to checkpoint, trying to see what was going on. At some point, I came to Yundum police station, for example, and I met a group of soldiers, including my own staff, who were placed there in cells by Sanasabali. And when I asked, they told me they didn't know why they were placed there. So I released them without consulting Sanasabali.
Do you know whether Sanasabali eventually found out what had happened?
Yes, it found out because Alaji Kanyi, who was put in place in the church, told me Sana was very angry when he came here to find out that you had released them. So I said I just didn't care because they were my staff, and they told me they did nothing wrong. And I think that was the wrong time to start arresting soldiers and officers for no reason. That should have been the time of unity, to cover each other's back, but not to start arresting people.
At what stage, tell us if you know, was a council formed?
Council must have been formed about a week after the coup or so, but not immediately. I didn't bother to find out. I didn't bother to be part of it. I was not hankering after any position. So it was for me a hands-off approach. I wanted to change. Change had happened. And I wanted to change, a bloodless change. It had happened. It happened. And for me, that was enough. So the rest was to take care of itself with time.
Did you continue to remain uninvolved?
Uninvolved meaning?
Not being involved with the council, as you said, as you alluded to earlier.
Well, at some point, I was called by Yaya Jammeh to say I could be part of the council.
At this stage, what was the composition of the council?
There were 5 members established, 5 positions established. And it was Lieutenant Yaya Jammeh, Lieutenant Sanasabali, Lieutenant Edward Singate, Lieutenant Sadibu Haidra, now I remember his name vividly, and Lieutenant Yankuba Ture.
Of course, you knew these people before. Tell us about Yaya Jammeh. What was he like?
Not so I can describe Yaya Jammeh in one sitting or in one sentence, but I think I use the word enigmatic here. You can't predict him. He is a man of bravado. He is false, and he lies a lot. And he wants to propel his personality all the time. He wants people to think good of him. So I know him to be this type of personality.
As a soldier, how was he?
I didn't get to know him very well as a soldier because he came from the National Gendarmerie. And at that time, we thought he was not soldier enough. And we used to joke about it, that he wasn't soldier enough because his discipline was not polished. He had a lot to learn about the army and the way the army operated. So he came in and was a complete stranger. He had to go through orientation and familiarization all the time. But what stood out very prominently was that Yaya Jammeh was not taking orders from senior officers, Gambian or Nigerian officers. He had no powers to protect him from not obeying orders. I guess he had a personality, a rebellious personality, so to speak.
Would it be correct from what you have said that he was indisciplined, braggart, and all that?
Yes.
Tell us about Sana Sabali. How did you find him?
Yeah, I found Sana to be immature. I found him to be economical with the truth. And I think his biggest disadvantage was that he lacked maturity.
How about Edward Singate?
Edward Singate was a sadist. He liked to inflict pain on people. He enjoyed inflicting pain. A very cunning personality. He projects a double personality. He was double-edged sword. At one point, he appeared to be a nice man, but inside this was hot burning fire. So this is Edward Singate that I knew.
Yankuba Ture.
Yankuba was on shore as a clown, a bit of a clown, a bit of a bootlicker. He was nothing. He just wanted to fit in.
Sadibu Haidara?
Sadibu Haidara, unfortunately, I didn't have time to know him much because he came like Yaya Jammeh, he came from the Zandam. So at that time, he was a bit lonely, strange, because he didn't mingle much with us. He was not that sure, but I guess he was a nice guy, and I just don't know what he looked like.
And this is the group that you joined. Let me just recap the personalities you mentioned. Yaya Jammeh, indisciplined braggart. Sana Sabali, economical with the truth, immature. Edward Singate, sadist, enjoys inflicting pain or suffering. Yankuba Ture, clown. Sadibu Haidara, misfit. Would that characterize the group that we called the council?
Yes, Council, I think you said it rightly. Unfortunately, we have...
No, these are not my words. These are your words, yes.
My words, yes. You have repeated my words, so it's right. But let's put it into context. These were not the personalities I used to know in the army, but position made them.
But nonetheless, this is the group that you joined as members of the AFPRC Council, correct?
Correct.
When you joined, did you have confidence in this group? And tell us honestly whether you had confidence in this group.
Well, at that point, yes, I had confidence in the group because they confessed to me, like Jammeh and Singate, that I had my wish that nobody was going to be executed, be it civilian or military. So once that was clear to me, I thought I had prevailed somehow, and that it made sense to continue with them, so I could continue to be a voice of reason. And that way I would be able to protect a lot of things and prevent things that were not supposed to be there and then.
And for how long did you remain as spokesperson of the AFPRC?
It was short-lived.
Tell us about it.
Must be less than 10 days.
Sorry, could you say again?
Must be less than 10 days.
And can you tell us what activities you embarked upon? Microphone, please. Oh. Can you tell us what activities you carried out during your time as spokesperson?
As spokesperson of council, you're responsible for communication with with the outside, advise also, counsel on several matters, arranging some protocol matters as well. For example, I helped organize the meeting at the Independence Stadium, the first council meeting with the public at the Independence Stadium. I was the moderator. I helped organize that. And I also had briefings with the press, including, for the first time, the Senegalese press, Senegalese newspaper called Sud Quotidien.
We would come back to this issue, your interview with Sud Quotidien. But in the meantime, let's talk about some of the actions that were taken by the council. You told the commission that they had assured you that nobody would be executed. Were there any arrests, as far as you know?
Were there any?
Arrests and detentions.
Yes, yes, there were arrests and detention. They started arresting and detaining officers, civilians, ministers. At that point, I was really a bit confused. Those were the days leading to my arrest. For example, I went to the Marine unit and found 2 ministers there. I think it was the Justice Minister and the Education Minister, Honorable Asan Jallo, and what's your Alkali Games Cake or so. At the tip of the bridge there, next a cliff of a bridge next to the water, they were sitting there confused, and I guess they thought they were going to be drowned. So I went there. They told me they were there. So I went there, took the initiative to go there, to assure them that they were safe. They had nothing to fear. We were going to take care of them. So let them not be afraid that anything would happen to them. This is a new dawn, and it required that due diligence be made, adopted, but there is nothing to fear whatsoever. And that was very helpful to them. They were, I think, I met them. I think James Gay was smoking continuously. Hassan was confused. So when I came there, they relaxed a lot, and I took pride in that, and ensured that nothing happened to them, and thank God nothing happened to them.
Were you aware of other people who were detained?
Yes, apart from the soldiers, the officers, and some of the men who were detained, there were also ministers who were arrested and detained at the then Atlantic Hotel complex, NIA complex there, that included OJ and others. The then education officer, also Kamabaji, and so on. Some of them were there. So we visited them, and we assured them that it wasn't any ill intention. They were there because the situation demanded that. But let them be sure that as soon as the dust settled, they would be released.
At this stage, how were decisions taken by the council, as far as you know?
I don't know if we were sure exactly what was, how it, that all that was to unfold, but that was the beginning of the rash behavior of Yahya Jammeh and to some extent Edward Singate by ordering arrests of military officers. At one point, there were 2 officers who were scheduled to be brutally arrested at home. And as soon as I picked that up, and that was even before I was a member of the council, I took it upon myself to go and get them and made sure they were safe. And that was, those were Ben Wilson, Captain Ben Wilson, and Captain Pamadou Ann.
What happened with regards to those people? Tell us about it.
Well, I took a number of men with me on a truck. They went. I went to Captain Wilson's place at Canifing, I think, where the Nigerians were staying, so as soon as they left, he occupied that place. They left for another apartment. He occupied that apartment with his family. He did not report to work, and I guess he was unsure what it was going to look like for him, just like Anne. So the moment we arrived, the moment the car turned towards the compound, they were running. The family was running helter-skelter to try to hide Wilson. So in the end, we pleaded with them that Wilson was there. Please tell him he's an officer and a gentleman, and he should come out and want to talk to him nicely. But I guess he was unsure, so he was hiding under the bed. That's why they got the leg and pulled him out. Then I said to him, you do not have to worry. Come with me. Soldiers wanted to sit him at the back of the truck, and I insisted that he should be at the front with me. So as soon as we reached the campus, he disembarked, we disembarked, and I placed him at the officers' mess instead of detaining him.
You arrested him?
No, I didn't arrest him. I gave him protective custody.
You detained him?
No, I didn't detain him. I took him to a comfortable place. That's the officers' mess.
Was he there on his own free will?
You could say he was not there on his own free will, but I guess without that, it could have been worse for him, because if what was planned had happened to him, probably, notwithstanding, I must say this, Sabali came back after discovering that he was not at home, because he planned to go and get him at home. But once he discovered that he was brought to barracks, he came and arrested him under gunpoint.
What did Sabali do with him? Microphone, please.
Sabali took him, ordered that he be taken to mile 2, and I insisted. I told him, no, he won't be taken to mile 2. We shouldn't start arresting now. He said it was on the orders of the council, the whole junta. I said, then I was not a member of the junta. I said, no. If it is on the orders of the whole junta, then it will be very disappointing, because all we're trying to do is try to unite everybody. So if you start arresting now, you are creating problem. It was then that I smelled that something is wrong here. I said no killing. Of course, there was no killing yet, but there are arrests beginning to happen of civilian leadership and military leadership. So what's going to happen next? I just don't know. And Sabali would not look at me in the eyes to tell me what he was doing was wrong, but he insisted that he was given an order to do it. Ben Wilson was whisked off to prisons. He was taken to mile 2.
How about Major Ann?
Major Ann, I think prior to the coup, had just landed in Banjul from a military course, and he was on a short leave, before he returned to barracks to work. So he had reason, very good reason to be home, but there was malice against him too. So when I brought him, he was not arrested. Actually, he wasn't arrested. He was free, and asked to go back home.
Malice from who?
Sana Sabali.
Did Sana Sabali see him at the barracks, Major Ann?
I won't know. I don't know whether he saw him at the barracks at that time. But he came for Wilson under escort of more than 20 soldiers, and he pointed a pistol at him and threatened to kill him.
When did that happen?
That happened at Hyundai Barracks. 2-3 days after the coup.
So now you have been co-opted, brought into the council, giving the responsibility of spokesperson. You heard and have seen that people have been arrested and detained. Did you have cause to discuss the arrest and detentions with members of the council at any time?
Yes, I confronted Yaya Jammeh in his office. I asked why officers were under arrest. I was not yet confident to raise the issue of the civilians for a while, but I was very concerned that soldiers themselves, the senior officers, were being arrested. And I told him, you might have not been in the picture, but there was a time we discussed this thing, and I was told that nobody would be killed. And you yourself told me when I came to the State House that nobody would be killed. My wish was granted. And now I see people being arrested. Are we heading towards that direction or not? And he told me these are interim measures, and for sure nobody would be executed.
I asked earlier, at this stage, how were decisions in the council made? What was the process of making decisions? Can you tell us?
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't spend much time in the council. Whatever I might have done was outside council. And the little assignment that I had was short-lived. And that was when I started voicing out concern for lives and properties, for people's well-being. And I guess that did not go down well with the likes of Singate, who had, I guess, always been in competition, sort of, with me, for one reason or the other. One reason or the other, I don't know, but he saw me as a concurrent, a threat or something. So, whatever reason, I don't know. These things start and they discuss these things and get to arrest people and bring them to whatever. And my objection to these arrests were noted, but many did not like what I was saying.
So you told us they were arresting people and detaining them, both civilians and military. But your own act of arresting 2 superior military officers was an act of preventive intervention. That's what you want us to believe.
That's where I smelled that somebody could be in danger for being at home, and if he had come to the barracks, probably that would not happen. I thought it was my duty to do that, to get them and put it in a comfortable position. So if it was a question of disarson, for example, to say there was an action, we are in this together, and you people are at home, and that could bring them problem, I tried to prevent that from happening to them.
You said your activities did not go down well with Jammeh. But before we go into what happened subsequently, tell us about your interview with Sud Quotidien.
Yeah, Sud Quotidien is a Senegalese newspaper, and they wanted to find out from us what exactly was going on. Like all other recognized accredited press, we needed to come out and give information. This is a country. People want to know what is going on, and we owe them that. And I always insisted that as the man in charge of giving out information, we now need to come out and tell people what is going on in our country. And so when the request was made, I went to Jammeh and said the Senegalese wanted an interview, and he granted it. So I had an interview with Sud Quotidien.
Prior to the interview, did you discuss with Jammeh what you could say and what you could not say?
I guess he understood clearly my role. There was no need for micromanaging my situation or my position or my responsibility. I guess Jammeh had confidence in me at that point, so he would not try to coach me on what to say and what not to say. But really, we had taken over a country, and we need to assure the population that they could go about their normal business once again, and that there would not be any harm to anybody. This government is a transition government, and that is probably one thing that Jammeh never agreed with internally. He didn't voice it out. But I guess he never agreed internally that this was going to be a transition government of 2 years, and then or a number of months, and then we'll hand over to civilians. At a cabinet meeting subsequently, he told us, Bakari Bunja Dabo, who was co-opted as minister, interim minister of finance, proposed a 2-year transition. But Yame frowned at this proposal and said it was not going to happen. We will make it a 4-year transition.
Did you eventually hold your interview with Sud Quotidien?
Yes.
How did that go, the interview?
I guess that was it. At the end of the interview, I was arrested and taken to Mile 2.
Who arrested you?
Men led by Sana Sabali.
Can you tell us how the arrest happened?
During the interview, Yaya came and peeped in. He came, opened the door, and peeped in to see whether the interview was taking place. Then I said, yes, anything. He said, no, go ahead. And he went back. And then men came and said, I was under arrest. I said, whose orders? He said, Lieutenant Sabali. Where is Lieutenant Sabali? He's in his office. I attempted to rush to Sabali to find out what the hell was, sorry for my language, what was going on, and I was blocked. And I was surrounded by a huge entourage of soldiers who disarmed me and requested that I be taken to Mile 2 prison.
Did this happen while the interview was in progress or after the interview had ended?
After the interview had ended.
Those who arrested you, were they armed?
Yeah, they were armed, because at that point, all soldiers were armed.
Do you recall the date of that interview?
Must have been on or about the 5th of August when I was arrested.
Of which year?
1994.
Say that again?
1994.
This must have been about a week after your appointment, correct?
Correct.
Where were you taken after you were arrested?
I was taken to Mile 2.
Can you explain how things unfolded after your arrest? How things unfolded?
Well, the vehicle headed to the direction of Mile 2, and I requested to know where we were going. The senior soldier there told me we are going to Mile 2. They have instructed us to take you to Mile 2. I was not going to ask him any further questions because it was an instruction that I'll be taken to Mile 2, and that's what was happening. So we went to Mile 2, entered. I was undressed. They took my gears. They took all the stuff from my pocket, telephones and everything from my pocket and so on. My weapons were earlier taken. I was not processed.
What do you mean by that? You were not processed?
Under normal circumstances, when somebody is taken to prisons, be it soldier or civilian, there is a need to prepare documentation to say when the person arrived there and how, by whom, who ordered his arrest, and so on. But that didn't happen in my case. And I guess in many other cases, I was just given a cell, and that cell was hard to occupy.
Were you told the reasons for your arrest?
No, I was not told because they were all, the entire council was running away from me. Who could I ask? I couldn't ask anybody.
The people who took you to the prison, did you ask them the reasons for your arrest?
Oh, initially I told you after the interview when I was arrested, I asked why. They told me they did not know it was on Sabali's orders. And that's when I attempted to see Sabali, to find out from Sabali. But I was blocked from seeing him. So naturally, I wasn't going to bother them again with reasons for my arrest because they were not the decision makers. So I let them to do what they were supposed to do. I just knew I was going to mile 2.
Once you arrived at mile 2, you were stripped, your belongings were taken away, and you were taken to a cell. Do you know which cell you were taken to?
Yeah. Again, I have still a problem identifying which is number 1 and which is number 4. But I guess I was taken to number 1 first, where I met the lives of some soldiers, officers there, a few officers. And then we started communicating. Some would say I was just picked up and brought here and so on. But then that was it.
You talked about number 1. What would this number 1 signify?
That's a death row.
Is it known by any other name?
I don't know. Sorry.
What does the phrase security wing mean to you, if any?
Okay, thank you very much. It could be maximum security.
Could you explain yourself again, please?
Well, it's a place where serious people who were about to be executed should be kept, or people who committed serious offenses would be kept. So that's my understanding of maximum security wing.
Do you recall the name of the section in Mile 2 prison where you were kept?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Do you recall the name of the section in Mile 2 prison where you were kept?
No.
But you recall that it was called number 1. Is that what you said?
Later discussions went like number 1, number 4. I just switched off. I didn't care what was 1 or 4. I just knew that we were brought to a place where nobody had access to family, nobody had access to information. We were just there, abandoned. So they moved us from one section of the prison, both maximum security.
You mentioned 1 and 4. Were those names associated to the various sections?
That's right.
Do you recall where you were first taken? What was the name of that section? What number?
Actually, really, I just didn't know. I thought it was 1, it could be 4. I could have been placed in 1 and then moved to 4, or in 4 moved to 1. I'm so sorry. I don't catch this anymore.
When you were first taken there, the section you were taken to, do you recall who were your immediate neighbors?
Yes, I met people like Ibrahim Kambi. The first place I was taken, Kambi was there, Sirif Mbai.
Can you tell us their ranks, please?
Yeah, he was Captain Kambi, Major Sirif Mbai, Aliun Dur, must have been a Captain Dur, Captain Aliun Dur, and some other non-commissioned officers.
Can you tell us about the conditions of detention in that particular place?
Absolutely difficult conditions. There were no beds, just bare plank, wood plank as bed, and then basically inhumane, unacceptable, but I guess that was mild too, the way it used to be, with us or without us. I think that was the situation, the condition people were kept in that prison prior to our arrival. So we thought that was the normal thing, but really it was not fit to hold a human being, because you couldn't sleep well, you couldn't even sit comfortably, and it was rat infested. The place was filthy, tight, and I guess that was the intention, to break us down, to make us feel that we do not have a voice, we do not have a right any longer, and we needed to break, die, or get confused, or get mad.
When you first arrived there, did you have the freedom to go out of your cell for the whole day, for instance?
Yes, at that point where I met Kambi, yes, we would go out sometimes and stretch our legs, sit together, talk simple issues, afraid to talk about the coup d'etat and the council and other things in case somebody was listening. But we pretended that we needed to keep each other's company. Yes, at that time, there was a bit of freedom, a little bit of freedom to move out of the cell, sit outside, stretch legs, and communicate among ourselves.
You said at that time you were able to go out. Did that situation change?
Yeah, the situation changed when we were moved to the other part. Call it 1, call it 4. I'm so sorry, you may know. The situation changed when we were moved. We were moved on the 6th of September, I remember, 1994, to the other part where the bulk of the detainees were civilians and military officers, junior and senior, and soldiers. And the civilians were moved to another place, probably where we were. So where we ended up housed only military officers on the 6th of September, 1994.
This date stuck in your mind. Why?
Yeah, because on this day there were something terrible happened. Something happened, and nobody could forget what happened there. We were attacked. We were attacked in the night, around 1 o'clock in the night. A group of soldiers came there, led by members of the junta, apart from Yahya Jammeh himself. They came there to torture us, physically and emotionally.
Tell us who came.
I told you all the council members other than Yahya Jammeh. Edward Singate, Lieutenant Edward Singate came. Yankuba Toure came. Sadibu Hydra came. Sana Sabali came. And Peter Singate, the younger brother to Edward Singate, was among them. Plus there are Oddlies and others that I may not know. I didn't catch the appearance of anybody, to recognize anybody. I concentrated on the officers who came there, the council members. So these are the people who concern me. And they were there all over the place, shouting, pulling people out of their cells, dragging them on the bare floor, dragging them, beating and kicking, abusing, you know, and then, yeah.
Can we talk about that particular issue and tell us in greater detail what you saw and give us a good chronology of how events unfolded?
At about 1 o'clock in the night, the door opened of the cell at the complex. And I saw boots coming in. I was not asleep at the time. Many were asleep, but I was awake. I saw boots coming in. I saw soldiers then coming in. And then, surprisingly, I saw Singate. And then I saw Yankuba. I saw the council members. And then their soldiers followed them. So, and then noise started. It started taunting people. They shouted names like amphibious. Amphibious meaning referring to Colonel Sar, then Captain Sar, Major Sar, because he told them, I think he warned Singate that the Americans were around and they were amphibious, that they could cross the coup. So they gave them this nickname, amphibious. So when they came, they shouted the name amphibious. But they went straight, I think, to Captain Mamad Cham's, or Major Mamad Cham's cell. I remember that vividly. They dragged him out, tied his hands and legs, and dragged him, on the floor. I remember him pleading with them, telling them, Magan, So somebody said to him, well, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You're talking about Gany, but you don't know what awaits you. So they dragged him outside, and gunshots were made or heard. We could hear gunshots. Then they came back.
Was anything happening to him, or were they doing anything to him while he was being dragged out of the cell?
No, in his case, I don't think they kicked him before they reached outside. But they disabled him by handcuffing his legs, hands, and then tying his legs, and dragging him with the strap of his clothes, or T-shirt, whatever. And then he was complaining that they were wounding him. As soon as they went out, gunshots were heard. And then they came back again to collect somebody else.
Before that, do you know whether he was beaten at all? Microphone, please.
He wasn't beaten there. He might have been beaten outside, but they were dragging him in a manner, very uncomfortable manner, across the floor. And that was very, very uncomfortable. And that's why he was complaining very badly. And they were taunting him, telling him something terrible will happen this night to him. And then they took him out of the complex.
How did you know that?
I was alive to the event. I told you I wasn't asleep. My cell, number 6, was just facing the door. So I saw them pull him out and dragged him outside the door.
How soon after he was taken out did you hear the gunshots?
As soon as he was taken out, within minutes, gunshots were heard. And they came out and said they had their first casualty. He's now no more. Captain Mohammed Cham was no more. He was killed. And they made us believe that. They came with blood on their hands. Singate had blood on his hands, and he tried to show all of us that the first casualty has just been gone down, and he's killed. So who was next? think it was Chongan also.
How did you feel when you saw blood on Singate's hands?
Yeah, I felt that was the end for me too, because I was the protagonist for non-execution. So if they had started killing people, I was not going to escape the killing, because they were going to revenge on me. They were going to say it was you who advised us not to kill. And since we have started killing, whether you deserve to die or not, we will kill you. That was the first thing. And so it was like I was already dead.
How did you feel realizing that this was your situation?
Today I can't describe how it felt, because that's like facing the horror of death, which was even more painful than death itself. The realization that you are about to be killed, and there's no getting out of it. You couldn't escape. There was no avenue of escape. I resigned to my fate, prayed to God that as long as my intentions were clean, I had good intentions. I didn't hurt any man. I wanted to protect my fellow citizens and colleagues against execution. And now I find myself in the execution zone. I prayed that, yeah, that is it. Let me be executed.
Did it end with charm?
No, I think their next target was Chongan. Chongan was their next target. So they came and dragged Chongan also out, did the same to him. But they were beating him from the onset, kicking and dragging him, punching him, doing all sorts of things to him. He did not complain and he did not cry. He could have cried outside, but he was very courageous. I saw them move him out and started hitting him even before they left the complex.
Do you know Chongan's full name?
Alpha Ibrahim Chongan.
What rank did he hold at the time, if you know?
He was the Deputy Inspector General of Police.
Do you know what happened after they dragged him out?
The same procedure, the same thing. They
Tell
dragged
us.
him out and then started shooting. And came back again with blood and said, the second casualty has just gone. Who is next?
Did they go for anybody else?
Then they came back for RSM Jeng, Babukar Jeng, and did the same thing to him. At that time, I must add this, at that time Jeng was he had an accident before, and his neck was, what's it called again? His entire neck was immobile. So he had a protective thing around it. He couldn't move a lot. He was part paralyzed, sort of. That's how they arrested this gentleman and placed him in cells. And they came for him, regardless of his conditions. They started beating and dragging him. And he cried and cried and cried. There was no remorse. They did this to him, dragged him outside, and again started shooting wild in the air.
All this time, what was your belief as to your fate?
Well, I had already died, so I knew I was in the life. I knew I was in the life. So at that point, and maybe you could all take lessons from this, death is to a point when it really reaches you, you don't know you are dying anymore. And I knew I was dead. I was just physically present. So that's it. But I had no fear. My fear had evaporated.
After the third casualty, what happened next?
the junta and their men came inside with blood again, just like they did to the others. At the end of the day, they came out and said, that is enough execution for the night. We will come back tomorrow night. You will be on the line, Amphibious will be, that is Samsar, and Musa Mane, I think. I was next, because I was next to Musa Mane, so it was going in a row. Sheriff Gomez was number 3. He was in number 3 cell. They didn't mention him, but they mentioned Saar, who was in 102, I think, and Musa Mane.
Do you recall who said they were going to come back the next day?
This whole thing looked like Edward Singate's game. He was doing the talking. He was doing the directing. Sabali was senior to him, but Sabali was like mute. He was acting, but he left the thing to Edward to direct verbally and everything, to direct the show, as they call it afterwards. So it was Edward Singate orchestrated, Edward and Peter Singate.
As far as you know, can you tell us whether all members of the junta who were present there participated in the torture of these people?
Counsel, it didn't matter to me who participated physically or not. What mattered to me was that they came there, all of them. They all agreed to do that, and I guess that's why they were all there. So whether anyone felt sympathetic or excused himself for one reason or the other, I just can't buy that. All I know is that they all came with the intention to torture us, physically and psychologically.
That may very well be the case, but my question is, from what you saw, did they all participate?
Yes, they all participated.
Thank you. After they said enough for the night or for the day, they would leave and they will come back, what happened?
Well, they went out, in a stampede. I remember Peter was the last to move out. Yes, he was looking around to see what Mile 2 looked like. Not blame him, because he just came from Sandhurst. I left him there. I left him in Sandhurst. He was next to me. He was new, so he was looking around amazingly to say, what does this place look like? So he was the last to come out of the gate. And they left. So you could imagine, death was theirs, smelling. Everybody was quiet, waiting to see what would happen the next day.
That night, did you see again the 3 that were dragged out of their cell?
No, we didn't see them again. We assumed they were already killed.
For how long did that assumption last?
Well, for a lot of people, it lasted for a long time. But I found solace in my training and understanding of guns. It is called the click and thump theory, that when a gun is fired, you need to know how it sounded. If it impacts a body, an object, or the ground, or if it just went into the air. And I concluded thereafter that it went, almost all shots went up into the air. So I assumed they were not killed after some point.
But at the time you were entertaining that theory, you did not see those 3 individuals again.
Correct. We didn't see those three individuals again, although their cells were untouched. Their personal effects were the way they were at the time of their removal. So even when we had the opportunity to come out to do anything, we realized that these guys' things were still there, untouched. Towels, they're hanging where they were hanging. Beddings were left the way they were. So for a long time, these things remained that way, suspiciously, or conspicuously.
The members of the junta and members of their entourage left making you believe that the three were executed. How did that affect the other officers who you were detained with?
Yeah, it affected all of us, but at varying degrees. It affected me adversely at that point. I thought, yes, there is no escape here. We're all going to die. It is the Ghana-style execution that they promised is what they were going to do to us. But then my emotion kept coming down when I promised myself that my knowledge of weapons and when weapons are fired consoled me a lot. So at any time I had an opportunity to meet any of the detainees, I would tell them this. We must not despair. Let us pray. These people were not killed. But of course, some of them were already distressed. I remember Samsar, had a Samsudin Sar. Captain Samsudin Sar was adversely affected.
How? Can you tell us?
Well, he remained in his cells for a number of days, motionless, without food, and he felt like somebody who's lost his mind. And then he would not answer to calls, he would not answer to greetings. Once in a while, I would pass by and tell him to take courage and pride in himself and his family that tomorrow would come. If you allow yourself go down this path, we are all here together. We are not yet killed, and God is not killed. God is alive. So he is there for us. We probably won't be killed. So let's have courage. And
in simple parlance, how would you describe the symptoms Captain Samsudin Sar exhibited at the time?
Yeah, excessive fear, depression, and he was switched off completely because he had a towel over his head, and bending over something bad, and motionless. He was just like that, But he wasn't dead. We knew he wasn't dead, and I know he wasn't dead, and he could hear words. So that's why I tried all the time to talk to him this way, and he confirmed this in the book that he wrote, Coup d'etat by the Gambian National Army.
What did he say there?
No, just to tell you that he said he appreciated my support at those difficult times when I used to come to his cell and tell him to take...
My question was how you would describe the symptoms that he exhibited at the time. And you have used some few words. You have used out of his mind. You have used depression. You have used some other words. And is there another word which actually captures that state of mind as far as you know?
Mad.
You mean that he was mad? Does that mean he exhibited symptoms of mental illness?
Correct.
Tell us about the other detainees, what you saw regarding how they behaved at the time.
we all had different mannerisms, different ways of reacting to that type of danger, varying from personality to personality. I salute the courage of all these officers who did not give up, despite the pressure, what looked like, you know, an execution. They all of them, you know, put themselves together. And I remember one Captain Johnson, who was like Babakar Jeng, sick. He was bedridden at the time. He was arrested and brought to us. And he couldn't even sit on a plank. In the end, the doctor had to recommend mattresses in his cell so he could sit down or even lie down. And that was granted. And then I remember we would sneak into his cell sometimes and say, oh, how soft this place. Today you won't sleep here alone. We're going to sleep with you. He will laugh. But we didn't know that this guy, they would not even spare this guy.
It was suggested in some testimony here that mistakenly or otherwise, that you were part of the group that came to Mile 2 prison. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, for the first time I learned that a prisoner could be an executioner. And so you're referring to Chief Gomez, who said that the council came there and tortured. And that council included Lieutenant Kante. And the name he didn't know, but Kante. I was the only member of the council. Whoever was a member of the council called Kante. So I was devastated when I heard this. I listened to the audio and the video myself, and I heard it. But what I can say to this is that it is, for whatever reason he said it, it is malicious and it is dangerous. I did not torture anybody. I have never tortured anybody. I was a victim like him. He was in cell number 3. I was in cell number 6. We saw each other almost every day, and we discussed sometimes about issues affecting us, the outside politics and so on. And all of a sudden, in his eyes, in his memory, I was a torturer. And I tortured.
Perhaps that may have been an innocent mistake. That may have been an innocent mistake. And I would not encourage the thought that this was malicious. But in any case, I want to show you the Gazette that listed the people who were detained, the security detainees at the time. I want you to take a look at it and see whether you would see your name on the list. This is exhibit number 3. Could this be passed on to the witness, please?
Yes, my name is here, Second Lieutenant Alhaji Kante, Gambia National Army.
What number are you listed under?
11.
Could you kindly pass the document to the chair, please, for them to see? While we allow the commissioners to inspect the document, we can still proceed with the questioning. For how long did you remain at Mile 2 prison?
Yeah, I remained there for about 3 months, and I was among the first batch of detainees to be released. The batch of detainees. There were individuals released once in a while, but I was among the first batch of those who were released.
While you were at Mile 2 prison, were you ever beaten or tortured?
No, I was never beaten, but I was psychologically tortured.
Can you tell us what activities you believe entailed your psychological torture?
First, the conditions of detention were psychologically unacceptable. The food was bad. And I guess other witnesses had already described the condition of food, the type of food we used to eat there, the type of rice and cherries, they call it futo, we used to eat there. So they would tell you wet or dry, and wet means they would give you something on top of, I don't know what type of sauce that is, and from what. You know, they will put it on the cherry, or they will give you the dry cherry, or futu in mantika, and ask you if you want sugar. This cherry did not look like a proper one. Or something mixed with. So.
Could you say that again, please?
If somebody could say that, I don't know.
Could you explain that in English, please?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the word. You know, this cherry we all know, Wolof, and that is futu in Mandinka. So when you pound the coos, the husk is what is called, what is it again? Dofeo. And it's soft. So I suspect they mix it with that, the real cherry with that, and serve it to us.
Can the interpreters help their counsel with that interpretation?
I guess, well, go ahead, yes. I think he said dofengo, that's the word, and it means husk, but let's hear from the interpreters.
I suppose that would be the chaff that comes off from the coos.
Okay. So, may I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Yes, please. Please proceed.
So you said there was psychological torture arising from the conditions of detention and so forth. How about the execution? Did it have any impact other than that you have described? Would you call that torture?
That's torture. If that's not torture, I don't know what is. The feeling of that one is about to die, that's the worst amount of torture. It's worse than even death. So this is psychological torture. It drove some people to madness, near madness. You know, and all of us changed one way or the other soon after. Then files came flashing all over, accusing us of treason, that we must go to some offices and sign that we've been part of a coup, which I refuse to accept, the coup against the junta, which I refuse to accept. And to this day, I never signed anything like that. If I would be killed, then let me be killed. But I wasn't going to accept, you know, that I tried to overthrow the junta.
Could you take again that list, take a look at the list, and read out the names that are contained in there?
First is Captain Ibrahim Akambi, Gambia National Army, Captain Mamad Ocham, Captain Ben Wilson, Captain James Johnson, Captain Ndu Cham, Captain Momodu K. Sonko, Major Malik S. Njai, Major Turo Jaone, Lieutenant Sirif ML Gomes, Second Lieutenant A. Kante, Second Lieutenant A. Kinte, Second Lieutenant Yakuba Drame, Sergeant Musa Mane, Sergeant Faraba Savary, Staff Sergeant Lamin Sambu, Warrant Officer Babukar Jeng, Warrant Officer Class 2 Musa Sise, Private Bori Dabo, Corporal Momodou Njai, Cadet Superintendent Abubakar S. Jeng, Tactical Support Group, Inspector R. Korea, Tactical Support Group as well, IGP Pasala Jang, Police, ASP Jame Contra, Police, Chief Superintendent Sirif Mai, Police, Superintendent Aliu Noor, Police, and Lieutenant Keba Diba, Gambia Police Force.
You left out a name, didn't you?
Inadvertently. I don't know which one.
AIG Chongan.
Left out or not here.
Take a look carefully to see whether you would...
Oh yes, sorry, I'm sorry. 25, yes. AIG Ibrahim Chongan, Gambia Police Force. Sorry for that.
Thank you very much. Did you recall seeing these people there at the security wing where you were detained?
Yes, I do.
So tell us the process of your release. How did things unfold?
Well, like every day, we would expect two things: the worst or the best. And then we thought probably common sense would prevail. These people would consider our fate and release us. And that was our hope. So we kept that hope alive. And one day, they came and took a number of us out that we were going to the bureau, the office, the prison yard, just to receive the pleasant information that we would be released, but not without going to the State House first.
At what stage were you interviewed for the purposes of taking a statement from you?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this was before we were tortured or after we were tortured, but I think it was after we were tortured, because this thing happened after September 6th, that we would be called to the office and be asked to look at a particular file for information about us and how we attempted to overthrow the government, the junta. So 2-3 of us were called at the same time and faced the NIA and the police. I think NIA and the police, what's it called again, special branch personnel also. Then that was it.
Do you recall which officers you faced for the purposes of giving a statement or interrogation, for that matter?
You know, at that stage it was hard to, to even ask for a name, because they had no badges to identify them, no name tags. But I remember one cham from Sukuta, one police from Sukuta called Cham. I remember that. I remember it because I had them calling his name. And I also intervened in case of Musa Mane when he tried to force him to accept something. So I told him, no, you can't force anybody here to accept any liability. You are here to take statement. You take what he tells you. Don't force anybody. He didn't like it, and I took a risk. But I remember pulling and pushing with him. His name was Cham.
From your earlier testimony, you did not give a statement. That's what's your position?
You say I didn't give a statement in prison?
Yes.
No, I said I was not processed.
Did you give a statement to the investigators?
Yes, I was compelled to write a statement, which I did, just like almost all of us.
Did you make any admissions?
No, over my dead body. Remember, I was dead already, so I will not bulge anymore. I said I was not part of any coup. I just did not know why I was arrested, and I'm not going to sign anything to that effect. You can take it to the bank. I did not sign anything concerning that.
Mr. Chairman, it's 5 minutes to the lunch hour. I now cede the floor to the commissioners.
Thank you very much, counsel, for that exchange with the witness. Before I give the floor to the commissioners, if they have any questions to ask, Mr. Kante, can you just clarify one point for me? Morning of the 22nd July, when you crossed at Barra, you said you went straight to Marine Unit, and then from there to police headquarters, and from there to State House. At any of these points, did you come across an individual called Amadou Suare?
At that point, no. I didn't see Amadou Suare.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, Deputy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lead Counsel. Thank you, Kante. Originally, you had mentioned two officers, Lieutenant Basiru Barrow and Lieutenant Alpha Kinte, who had been part of the coup plotters. But after that, they are not part of the narrative. Can you please help us about the role of these two officers on the 22nd of July? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I've already explained how the split finally came, that we did not agree on the modus operandi and what was going to happen to the ministers, civilians, and our colleagues who were senior to us. So we did not take part. So Kinte and Barrow were not part of it, part of what happened on July 22nd, 1994.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinte.
Commissioner Kinte, Captain Kante, please allow me to take you back a bit. The Nigerians, when they were here, they were designated. They had a designation, and I thought they had a TOR, terms of reference, what they need to do also. Were their performance in line with their purported designations, and or contrary?
No, because the meaning of a training team is different from a command team. We were expecting a training team, but instead we saw our army taken over by the Nigerian officers. The commander was Dada, and he brought assistant commander who was his Colonel GS, that's General Staff, and there was the AQ, Administration and Catering Administration, also Nigerian. All other departments were headed by Nigerians and seconded by Gambians. That is not what a training team was supposed to be like. A training team should be confined to a team of trainers which will be in the training school, but not to take over the command of the administration of the army. And that's what they did. And they connived with, I thought that was an affront to our integrity. It was an affront to our dignity that the government would allow foreign forces to come and command our army at a time when there was no war or there was no serious situation.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. John, yeah, please.
Commissioner Jones, thank you, Mr. Kante. You said you were asked while in detention to sign that you were part of the coup against the junta. Could you please just specify what coup you're talking about and what part or what time during your detention were you asked to sign?
Well, this group from the NIA and I think police intervention, police special branch or so, as they were called, came and asked us to sign statements, to make statements, and asked us to. I don't know if it was all of us, but I, in person, I know that they were telling me that I was complicit in a coup against the junta, because I asked them why I was arrested, and they said because I was accused of plotting against the junta. So I said, no, I did not plot against anybody. I just did not even know why I was here in the first place. But they kept insisting that that was the case. So I said, fine, you can insist that was the case. But I will never put in writing or append my signature to anything like that. I did not stage a coup against the junta.
Thank you very much indeed, Commissioner Carr.
Commissioner Carr, I have a question. Were you allowed access to a lawyer during your detention?
No, in fact, we were, thank you for the question. We were kept incommunicado for most of the time. The only contact we had were prison officers, some of whom were very nice, others not so nice. The information we got from the outside world came through them. And some nice ones would, I remember a radio was sneaked in for me, which I was using to listen to the BBC and other news outlets in the country. And I was furnishing the rest of the detainees. It happened once that my radio dropped and rolled outside my cell, and that was a very dangerous one. Fortunately, the first one to encounter it was a friendly prison warden who came and took it away. Of course, he brought it back to me because they bought it for me, there.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jallow.
Commissioner Jallow, Imam Hussein Jallow. You as young officers saw this dissatisfaction to the point where you decided to try to create a coup. Did you ever communicate these feelings to your superior officers of your dissatisfaction? Not necessarily the coup, but your dissatisfaction.
Yes, one form or the other. We kept communicating with them, and they know how we felt. We knew how they felt. Even they were not happy, completely satisfied with what was going on. Their position was simple. They had a lot to lose, they say, because they were going to be next after the Nigerians. We thought it was irrelevant whether you're going to be whatever position you aim to hold after the Nigerians does not play a role. What played a role was how you perform on the job, your sincerity and your loyalty to your country. That's what we believe as senior officers. So I guess they too were aware that things were not going right. And also they were aware that we were not satisfied, and to the point of disgruntlement. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Yes, Bishop, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Alaji Kante, you actually described how you felt humiliated and disappointed when the Nigerian training team came in the Gambia and they took over command of the Gambian army. And because of your dissatisfaction, I think you are one of those who, consider the idea of that there must be a change of government. And that change will also reflect the change in the lead of the Nigerian army. But you mentioned that I think you take a leading role, but and you were a trained soldier. But eventually, in your description, the one who actually led the group, according to you, was not a trained soldier. and that you referred to Yaya Jammeh. So how did you come about that decision to allow an untrained soldier to lead you, the trained one?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I will not describe Yaya Jammeh as untrained. He was trained in a number of arts in the military, military police. He had a good training grounding in military police duties. Of course, the army was a different scenario for him, but that was a higher standard. The Zandams would disagree with this at the time, but when the Zandam was amalgamated into the police and some prominents were brought in, including him, Yaya Jammeh, and Haidara, we thought that they would assimilate quickly into the army. And then events were moving very fast at that time. There was lack of command and control, efficient command and control. The government did not trust the army or whatever. There was inter-service competition and rivalry between Zandam and army. And then Yaya Jammeh came. I describe him in my statement as a wolf, lone wolf, who always harbored the ambition to overthrow government. And then he came in. When I joined the army, I had no such intention. But I thought army was my chosen profession, and here we are, the government that was supposed to safeguard our dignity and integrity is the same government that does not trust us. And it is this government that was out to humiliate us by bringing foreign forces to command us. So that's why we struck. But I told you that we didn't agree entirely among ourselves as to what to do. Do we kill? Do we not kill? I said no. Others said no. And those who were with this belief that blood needed to spill co-opted Yaya Jammeh. And then the betrayal started there. Then they started walking alone. So that's how July 22nd came about. I hope I answered your question, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any further questions? If at the end of the day, Mr. Kante, the young officers are dissatisfied with the goings on in the army and in the country, the deployment of Nigerian soldiers here, you just mentioned how humiliating that was for these young officers. And in order to get rid of the Nigerians, you decide that we as soldiers should get rid of our own Gambian civilian government. The other thing that I think mention was made, I think by you, was the young soldiers were aware of perceived corruption and nepotism. What business do trained and disciplined soldiers have to do with the widespread perception of corruption and nepotism in society?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your question is very relevant. And I wish I would just say that it was not because of the corruption, rampant corruption in government alone, that triggered our action as young officers. But it compounded it. It contributed to it. You see, because if you make the law, you should obey the law. If you advocate for decency, then you must be decent yourself. If you advocate for standards, then you should have standards. And we realized that our government did not have the standards. In hindsight, I would say this, because it's your question as chair. In hindsight, I think coups are wrong, because coups are an abrogation of authority and overturning constitutionality in a country. And that is, you can't explain that without calling it an act of wrongdoing, no doubt about it. It happened at a time when, but it happened at a time when we were so young and youthful, so we had this youthful exuberance, a little bit immature, you know, we were not so mature in how government works and so on. And I would apologize here that I wish I had not taken part in change of government through the barrel of a gun. But this was the time, and this is how it happened. And you know, it was the moment of history that the Gambia too had to undergo military rule for some reason or the other, and we put all these grievances in one box, you know, and took it as a reason for the coup that we were about to make. You know, so we couldn't say the Nigerians alone. The Nigerians would not come to the Gambia and occupy our army without the authorization of the government. And so the grievances were both against the Nigerians and our government for allowing a repeated humiliation of its troops and soldiers who did not show any sign of weakness or something. If anything, it was the government that has caused this coup, because from one stage to the other, they did not take care of their own end of the bargain. They tampered with our dues. They did not give us what we deserve. They brought in foreigners and started giving them more than they deserve, or more than us. And so all these things came up as grievances against the government itself. And then also we saw that the government was itself not clean. You know, this is a government that was corrupt to the core. We saw it. We're intelligent enough, we are old enough. And that's why we said, we'll bulldoze the government and the Nigerians will go. And that's what happened on the 22nd of July, 1994. But like you rightly said, it is not the business of soldiers to take over government. And in hindsight, I wish that hadn't happened.
At the end of the coup, years after that, many leaders do come out to say that we should not have been doing this. I had a meeting with Yakubu Gowon in Abuja after Sani Abacha left. Spent 2-3 hours talking with Gowon. Gowon was lamenting about the mistakes of military overthrowing civilian governments. Said it was none of their business. They weren't trained to run countries, and could have predicted what was going to happen in this country as well. Rawlings was the only one that I know met who did not regret that thing. As a matter of fact, he continued to encourage young military guys coming in to do it. But anyway, that's for topic for another session or another time, not for the hearings that we are having here. Sorry, the exchange is not to confront you, and it's not to try to push you in a corner on that one. It's just raising these things. We are just exchanging information here. And I don't want to take too much of Council's role on some of these points. If there are no further questions, and the Council, you don't have any other point, we would take our 1 hour break. We come back here at 2:30, if that is okay. Do you have any other points, Council?
No, Mr. Chair. They can wait until the afternoon session.
Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. We come back here at 2:30.